We have spent countless hours together discussing all of the stuff you shouldn't do to your homes. Shitting on bad interior design, talking about all of our mistakes, all of your mistakes specifically. But we haven't talked about my interior design mistakes, and I've definitely made quite a few. I will say that I don't really consider a lot of the things I've done, especially in this Los Angeles house, mistakes, because it was more trial and error, testing things out. But I definitely have some specific areas throughout my life that I do consider a mistake or a regret of mine. If you watch my home update series, you know that I will paint a room and then not like it, paint it to another color, I'll reupholster something, and then I'll sell it and I'll get something else. And a part of that process is really just trying to discover my own interior style. And I don't know, it's also fun making content out of, just trying new things. But yeah, I have compiled maybe 10 interior design mistakes that I've made throughout my life, or even in my childhood homes. I was very involved in the decorating process and stuff like that with my parents, and I have some mistakes from that era of my life as well. So if you're interested in where I've made some interior design mistakes, then you're here for the right video. And I'm drinking a Lipton tea. I bought one of those tea pitcher things where you can make a giant pitcher of tea, and that's what I'm drinking. And it probably needs a little lemon, but what are you gonna do? Anyways, roast me down below. Here are my top interior design mistakes that I've made, and some of them I do think about often, and it makes me sad. And it's like, why am I still thinking about this? Need to move past it. If you're a longtime viewer, I started my channel by putting up videos of renovating my Chicago condo. It's a 700 square foot, 1 bedroom plus office condo. And I definitely did a lot to this space with the help of my dad and my boyfriend at the time. One of the main mistakes from this spot is concrete floors in the bathroom. I hated the tile that was in that bathroom. It was like this weird, like blue water tile. And I didn't have the funds to retile the bathroom at the time. I first redid the vanity section, and I gave, a little makeover where I have a new sink, a new backsplash, a new mirror, lights. That was all super easy. But when it comes to flooring, I think my DIY project of laying down my own concrete was definitely a fail. I basically mixed my own concrete. I laid it over the tile. It actually looked okay, but I feel like it wasn't really concrete, or I don't know. Maybe I didn't do enough research. I feel like there wasn't a top coating that worked. It was always kind of like chipping and chalking off. And I also had really bad tile in the kitchen. So by the time I saved up funds to get hardwood in the kitchen, I kind of was like, all right, let's just rip out the bathroom and continue the hardwood in there. It's not ideal really to have hardwood in a bathroom, especially with a shower. Not ideal, but again, funds, and I needed that concrete to go. So that's probably one of my bigger mistakes. If it were me, or if I'm suggesting something to you, I wouldn't, do concrete on your own unless you really know what you're doing. I definitely did not know what I was doing. I feel like I didn't even use the right product. I guess looking back on it, maybe I could have removed that tile myself. I don't know. But yeah, it looked bad, so don't do it, and I regret it. Let's skip over to Los Angeles, the place I'm living in now. I have documented pretty much all of my decorating and the process that I went through with furnishing this place. I will say this is the first place that I really lived in where I was decorating it from scratch on my own with a little bit of funds, to be honest. When I lived in my Chicago place, I definitely drained my bank account with buying the place. So a lot of the renovations or things that I put in that house were, cheap. or from like my family or my ex's family, whatever. Anyways, when I got here, one of the first things I did was get a sofa, and I love that sofa. I still have that sofa, but then I got 2 chairs across from that sofa, which I still really love that design idea, having a sofa across from 2 chairs. It's a very standard layout. I now have 2 sofas, one sofa across from another sofa. But what I learned with those 2 chairs is they weren't comfortable. So while they looked amazing and I really love these guys and someone bought them and I'm sure they're enjoying them, but in the space that I was at, they just didn't make sense comfortability wise. They still are comfy, but I don't know what it was about them that you didn't really want to sit there when there was a sofa across that was a little bit more comfy. So I do regret getting those 2 chairs because I did spend a lot of money on them and I reupholstered them in an amazing fabric that is now discontinued. I would have used that fabric somewhere else probably. And actually they were used on the back of like one of the first pillow launches. That fabric was used. But yeah, I regret getting those 2 chairs to an extent. You know, it's like I had to try it out. But in the end, I just needed a second sofa because this is just like a little loungy area. And if I were to do 2 chairs, then they should have been, you know, more laid back or more loungy or something like that. Now let's move over into my bedroom here in Los Angeles. I filmed a video where I make my own track curtains. And while I do love those curtains so much, I didn't measure them properly. They were definitely not long enough to the point where I ended up giving them to a friend where they made more sense. For me, when I hung the curtains, I was like, oh shit. They are definitely maybe 6 inches too short, way shorter than I had wanted. And that was an expensive fabric also. Also, I spent a lot of time making them. I regret it. I definitely regret those curtains. I mean, I guess I learned something from it, like measure correctly. I feel like I did measure, but I just wanted that fabric a lot. So I was like, it will be fine. And then they were too short. So I do regret my too short of track curtains that were way too expensive to then replace in probably 2 weeks. I was like, I can't do this. And then I bought way too expensive of curtains to replace them. Also, it was just a whole curtain thing. And now I've made custom curtains for clients or friends that I've worked with. And I have a guy downtown LA who can make me these custom curtains. And I'm like, oh, I could have just done that. Now let's go back to my Chicago place where I have more regrets. I probably have a lot more regrets in that place than I'm listing, but because it was for renters, it was just, I wanted some just good, long-lasting design. Honestly, when I was looking through it, I was like, I did do a good job. I did. But another regret I have for my Chicago renovation was the shower. I redid the shower because I was just doing a whole upgrade to that bathroom. I think I planned on living there a little longer than I did, but you know how life goes. And I thought I would be able to enjoy that bathroom a little more. Anyways, I redid the shower with my dad. We took out all of the tile and we replaced it with this black slate tile. And I created 2 little like squares for shampoo. And I really like the design I did. But I will say black slate tile or black tile in general in a shower isn't really the best route. And that's because soap, shampoo products, they all kind of dry like white and crusty, you know? They're not going to dry dark. So to keep things more clean, I would have gone with a lighter tile. I do like the look of the dark tile, but if you don't want to be cleaning things all of the time, I wouldn't do it. I think I thought that it would be better. I did get like really large tiles because I feel like that's a lot easier to clean in general than having a ton of grout. But the dark, I think, really screwed me because I feel like after the first few showers, I was like, there is residue of just like soap and stuff, but you could just see it. And it was looking flaky and dusty. And that's that. So I do regret it, even though I don't live there. and it does look good. Speaking of tile, I was talking to my mom and I was like, what are some things we regret doing to our Geneva homes? I was born in Chicago, but I grew up in Geneva, Illinois. And we had 2 homes that basically are like replicas of each other, which is just interesting. I guess my parents are creatures of habit. But I was talking to them and I'm like, what are some things that we regret in those homes? One being white tile in the kitchen. My dad said that it was the worst decision they've made because it is just impossible to keep clean. So it's kind of like you have to look at tile and be like, what is going to land on this tile? So in the kitchen, it's just food and gunk and whatever. I think white tile is really hard to keep clean. I almost think you need like a neutral color, or I don't know, because even if you get really dark wood in a house, that's also hard to keep clean with dust. So it's almost like you have to go somewhere in between, or like something like this, if you really want to have it, I don't know, not show a ton. Yeah, I guess white tile in the kitchen isn't too smart, but maybe white tile in the bathroom is. And I guess that's why you see a lot of white tile in bathrooms. So they do regret that. And then we moved into our replica house and my mom said they still did white tile flooring in the bathroom. And I think it's like, what is the best tile to use for the floor? I think white tile in the shower is good, but then is it just like a neutral tile on the ground? Because I don't know which way to go with not showing dirt or whatever it is. I think it's just dependent on the room. But yeah, white tile in general is just like not that cute in the kitchen, I guess, right? Hardwood. I would do hardwood. Also in that Geneva home, the second one, replica, the bigger, it's like they took the first one and they just kind of like made it a little bigger because then they had 3 kids. Anyways, in the basement at that home, it was always unfinished. I used to always play down there with like my grandma's old stuff. And I remember actually like we would pretend like we were like in the colonial days and we were like, we have to live in this basement and we have to survive off of what's here. And I remember we would cook little carrots on lamps. That was our stove. And we would like shave blocks of soap into a bucket and that's how we would bathe. I don't know. Don't ask me. I was just into designing. Me and my friend Megan, we used to like live down there and design the space. And I remember we got in a big fight because I wanted the dining table to be pushed up against the wall and she wanted it centered. And honestly, she was right. So anyways, once we got the basement finished, that's like right when faux wood, like planking vinyl flooring came in. I swear my parents were the first people to ever do it. We had this like light wood. It was actually kind of almost this color. I'm not really necessarily saying this because it was like a decor aesthetic thing, because my parents didn't care about the basement. They were just like, here you go, kids, go down there. And we don't want to see anything that is going on. They really never went down into the basement. But that flooring, I feel like it just wasn't a thing yet, where it has so many advances now that you could put the faux wood flooring in a basement. But at that time, any moisture that got in was just bubbling the tiles, or if anything spilled or I guess any liquid got on it. I remember, I think one time the toilet overflowed and we got like big air bubbles, and it just, my parents ended up having to rip out the faux wood flooring. So I guess, you know, if you're putting that in a basement, you just want to make sure you get like a high quality vinyl or whatever it is, because it will bubble. And so I definitely think my parents regret it. And then we ended up getting carpet, which was interesting because why carpet also disgusting with 3 kids. We just tore that place apart. So back to my Chicago place, because this was a big mistake I made and it had, you know, lasting repercussions that I am still dealing with to this day. And that was not getting, I didn't get a pet resistant rug pad. My dog, the Goo, you remember the Goo from early days, Ms. Agoy. Wait, this is so funny. Here she is. These like little cutouts from my birthday, my 30th. She always pissed on the floor, mainly on the carpet. I don't know why I didn't get a rug pad that was pee resistant or whatever. And then when I moved, we saw like these dark stains on the wood, and it was just a nightmare. I mean, that place has character, so it is what it is. But my dad and I tried so many things. We like shaved it down, we like sanded it, we stained it, we tried to match it. It was fine. It's just not ideal. And I definitely regret not, putting a rug pad down. And on top of that, I also used painter's tape at that Chicago place that wasn't actually painter's tape, I guess, or I don't know, it was old and it ripped up the stain on some of the wood. So that's another giant regret of mine. And make sure that you're using frog tape or anything that just like, if it's an off brand, don't do it because it will rip off the stain of your wood floors and it's a nightmare to deal with. So another regret. See, I have regrets. I've made many mistakes. I mean, I feel like you all know that because I'm talking on here, but I didn't go to school for interior design. I don't know a certain term. It is what it is. So we're all just learning. You're watching me learn in time what I like, what I don't like, how to decorate a place. And I'm just giving you my tips based off of what I'm learning as I live my life. YOLO. When we moved out of our childhood home, my parents sold their childhood home and they moved to the city, and then they got this lake house in Michigan. But when we moved out, we all kind of had to go through our items of what we wanted to keep and what we didn't, and we all had like a few bins that are now stored in an attic at the lake house, but that's beside the point. There are a few things that we look back on and we're like, why did we get rid of that? Like, we should have kept that. Those are special, whatever it is. But the main one was for my brother. He had these framed Ralph Lauren like teddy bears. I feel like these are kind of like a very iconic staple of Ralph Lauren, whatever. He had framed ones in his bedroom, and I don't know why, but my mom got rid of them, which I feel like she normally wouldn't do. But we talk about it all the time. My brother brought it up. It's a sad thing for him, and sometimes we like to poke the bear. Whoa, no pun intended, and bring it up and make him squirm, I guess. But I still think about those sometimes. I'm like, why did we get rid of those? There's nothing that I got rid of or my mom got rid of that I like necessarily regret from that house. I feel like we kind of wore everything, all the pieces of furniture down to they needed to be tossed kind of thing. And all of my furniture from my childhood bedroom was IKEA. Actually, there are a few IKEA. There's that IKEA check shelf. I actually saw that on eBay the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had that in my childhood bedroom. So maybe I regret getting rid of that, but I also don't love it. But it's a vintage IKEA. So one other thing I regret doing at my Chicago place, or I guess I regret not doing, is replacing that accordion door that let you into my office/guest bed. If you remember those videos, I didn't really know what to do with that door. It was really annoying, and I basically kept putting it off and off to the point where I was moving out, and I was like, I guess the renter just has to live with this accordion door. But fun fact, my sister is actually going to be moving into that Chicago place, which is actually going to be kind of fun to film, to re-enter that space. Actually, I don't know if I want to do that. Do I want to do that? I can't. I've never, the day I moved out, I've never stepped foot in that place again. Oh, no, I take that back. We had to repaint it for the second renter. But I've never hung out in that space. There's too many memories attached. I don't know if I can handle it. But my sister is moving in there. We're going to sage it. We're going to make it feel good. And I do want to help her upgrade that accordion door because I regret not replacing that. So if you have any ideas, let us know. And then one other thing I kind of regret doing for that place now that my sister is moving in is painting the cabinets myself. Obviously, when you're on a budget, you have to do what you got to do. And my dad helped me, and they did turn out really nice. But when it's not done professionally, it just can wear and tear a lot easier. And so if this was my like forever home, or if I could redo it, I don't know, maybe I would have done a different process, but I had no money. So, but it is kind of an annoying thing that we have to like touch up and keep up on. I wouldn't have kept the original wood at all, but I don't know. There's a few design things that I did where I'm like, you know, if this was for a renter, maybe I should have just kept the original instead of going with like the aesthetically pleasing route. I guess we'll find out when my sister moves in. She'll tell me. She'll be like, Paige, this is shit. But I haven't gotten any complaints yet from my renters. Honestly, the only thing I've had to do so far is replace a microwave. Knock on wood. Ms. Agoy. Remember she used to sit in like a little like thing right here because she would literally bark at me if she wasn't on my lap. But sometimes she would sit right here. She said, "Where we go?" This actually is kind of freaky. It looks like she's here. Oh, okay. We're going to end on some two big boys. These are two mistakes that I think about often, and I'm trying to actually not think about it because it's in the past, and I really hate that I still think about it at night. Sometimes I have like mini nightmares about this, which is just like, relax. This doesn't need to be your life. One, the lake house floors. We had parquet floors with carpet. And again, this isn't my house. This is my parents', but I've been helping them make design decisions. And if I could go back, I would have paid a little bit more attention to the wood we were replacing it with because I just feel like it doesn't look real. And it is real. Well, so my dad says. I did help pick it out because I thought it was real wood. But then seeing it go in, I was like, I don't think this is real wood. And it really bothers me. However, my parents really do like it, so I need to let it go. But I don't want to talk about it. I don't like thinking about it. I honestly wasn't even going to mention it in this video because I'm so distraught for whatever reason. I truly do think about it often. So, and I used to bring it up to my parents and they were like, Paige, drop it. And I was like, all right, fine. So now I bring it up to you. And last but not least, my biggest regret in history of my life, in the history of design of my life, and my mom also, we both think about this and we regret it. But when I lived out here in Venice, I was on Craigslist and I found this rug that used to belong to Sheryl Crow, and it looked like this. And it was a stunning, beautiful rug. It honestly was way too big for my Venice apartment, but it was incredible. I don't know what I was thinking when I got rid of it. I don't know why I did that. Basically what happened is I moved out of my Venice place and I road tripped home to Chicago. I had a friend at the time who weirdly was also moving back to Chicago, and she was getting moved by her company. So I was able to be like, can you take this rug? And like, I think like one like TV unit or something. And so that was super nice. She took those pieces. I probably would have sold them here, but I got the rug. It didn't fit into my Chicago place, so I just stored it at the lake house. And then after my breakup, after my big breakup, I basically just got rid of everything besides like small items. I was like, I don't want anything attached to any feeling or whatever. That rug lived in my Venice place. It didn't need to go. There was no sad attachment to it. But I think I was just on this, like, I just wanted to clean out everything. And we did a little garage sale at our Michigan lake house, and someone bought it, I think for like $300. And it was a huge rug too. I feel like it was like a 10 by 12 giant, beautiful, beautiful rug. And it's very like Frank Lloyd Wright style. And my mom's like, why did you get rid of that? I'm like, you were at the garage sale. You saw what we were selling. So anyways, it does make me, like, that whole thing of getting rid of that rug does make me question when I get rid of stuff. I'm like, am I going to regret this big time? And that's kind of one of my biggest regrets. So I guess what I'm saying is don't just get rid of things when you're emotionally unstable. Wait until you can actually decide, or else you're going to get rid of a really great rug. Those were my biggest design mistakes, and let me know your biggest design mistakes. I feel like they weren't too bad. It's a lot of, trial and error over here. So, When I don't like something, like when I hung the curtains and they were too short, I don't really love to live with them. Like I will immediately be like, nope, sell, redo. But I don't know. I guess is there anything else? Is there anything from this place that you think is a big mistake that I've made? If you've been watching my home updates, let me know. Let me know. We're all making mistakes. I'm constantly making mistakes. I am constantly learning all of this as I go. YouTube, interior design, dating, life in general, work-life balance. Is life just a constant learning lesson? I think so. So don't be hard on yourself if you've made bad design mistakes. And I didn't even dig into like my college room. I feel like all of that is just like me discovering my style. I can't really call it mistakes. I think now I can. I think it's like mainly a mistake if you're really investing a good amount of time or money into it and you're just like, God damn it, I got duped or I got convinced by social media. What was I thinking? Okay, that's it. See you soon. I have some fun videos coming up where I'm going to be rearranging someone's apartment here in Los Angeles with only items that they have. So make sure to tune in for that. I'm also doing a little kitchen upgrade at my brother's place in Chicago. So we're getting out of the desk and we're getting on our hands and our knees. That's what she said. All right. Bye.